Hello everybody and welcome back to my World of Tanks Xbox 360 guide. Today we are going to be talking about the AMX 5120. This is a tier 9 heavy tank, although this is not really a heavy tank because of its armor, which I will be discussing. Do not be thinking that you're going to be leading the charge into battle and expecting to live in this tank. Now, when you first unlock this tank, you're going to get a choice between two guns, the 90mm and the 100mm. You should unlock the 100mm SA-47 whenever you play the AMX 5100. And you'll also have the 90mm DCA-45. Now you're going to want to use the 100mm to grind up to the 120mm SA-46. That is the 7 gun that is going to be on the AMX 50B. I was so glad to get out the AMX 5100. That tank is alright if you're in a tier 8 match, but you get in battles with tier 9 and tier 10 tanks. You basically have to act as a sniper in that tank, but everything is just going to penetrate you. Its armor is horrible on that tank and everything. I was so glad to get this tank. I feel so relieved to finally have this tank. It wasn't that bad of a grind, but playing this tank is so much better. The rewards are great, only because of this 120mm that you're going to be getting on this tank. Let's talk about the hit points for this tank. This tank gets 1,750 hit points. Not bad for tier 9. It's about, I guess, average. Some of the other tier 9 heavy tanks get more hit points. Your hit points are going to get withered away very, very quickly, though, because you have no armor. So if you get spotted, almost everything's going to be able to penetrate you. I will be discussing the armor here in a second. Signal range is 750 meters. Get tier 10 radio. Now here's one of the strengths of this tank. This tank is very, very mobile. Very fast. If you get yourself into a situation, you can get yourself out of it with your speed. You are faster than all other heavy tanks on the battlefield. Even some medium tanks. You're faster than most medium tanks on the battlefield. You can keep up with light tanks in this tank, believe it or not, because this tank has 65 kilometers per hour speed limit, and your reverse is going to be 20 kilometers per hour. Now that is exceptional for the weight of this tank. This tank surprisingly weighs 60 tons. Not the heaviest tank, but it has some weight to it. Your load limit is going to be 65 tons. Let's talk about the crew. You're going to get 4 crew members in this tank. You're going to get a commander, a gunner, a driver, and a radio operator. Now your commander, gunner, and radio operator all act as your loaders. Now let's talk about the armor of this tank. This is what makes this tank, I wouldn't say bad, but it's definitely the downfall to this tank. The hull armor is 100mm from the front, 80mm from the side, 60mm in the rear. Same goes for the turret. Turret front 100mm, side of the turret 80mm, rear of the turret 60mm. Now let's put that into perspective. You are a tier 9 heavy tank. The Tiger has 100 millimeters of armor. So you have the exact same armor as a tier 7 heavy tank. That is bad. You're a tier 9 heavy tank going up against tier 9 and tier 10 tanks. Tier 8s and tier 7s. All those tanks have guns to penetrate 100 millimeters of armor. Yes, if you look at this tank, it has sloping in the front. Its turret is sloped. You're not going to ricochet shots. If you ricochet a shot, it's a miracle. It's because someone wasn't fully zoomed in and the shot was completely off. Your tracks may eat a shot or something, but do not expect the armor to hold up for you and ricochet shots, because it's not going to happen. This tank is a support tank. You are second to third line offense or defensive for your team. You're not the pusher. You are a supporter. If you try to push early in the game, leading the charge, you're going to die. You're going to take unnecessary hits that you shouldn't have been taking on your tank. Let's talk about the engine power. This engine has 1,000 horses. This is why this tank is so mobile. Great engine. You're going to be able to get yourself out of a situation and book it out of there and get to a safe place where your allies are. Your speed will save you in this tank. Don't think that you're a normal heavy tank and you're not going to be able to escape. You can escape in this tank. Let's talk about the horsepower to weight ratio. You're going to get 16.83 horsepower to ton ratio. That is pretty good for a heavy tank. The transverse speed of this tank is 32 degrees per second, which is also pretty good. The fire chance in this tank is only a 15% chance of getting set on fire. I have yet to be set on fire in this tank. I'm sure that people get set on fire in this tank, but I have yet to get set on fire in this tank. Even though I have only played 128 games, out of 128 games, I have not been set on fire yet. But I have not been hit by artillery. I'm sure if I get hit by artillery, since this tank has no armor, I will be set on fire. Let's talk about the view range. This tank gets 390 meter view range. It's pretty good for a tier 9 heavy tank. The turret traverse speed is also 32 degrees per second. So you're going to be able to turn this tank and lock onto medium tanks and light tanks fairly easily without getting flanked around. They're going to have a hard time circling your tank without taking shots from you. So you are mobile. Medium and light tanks are not going to be able to circle you and kill you that easily. Let's talk about the ammo for this tank. This tank gets AP rounds, APCR rounds, and high explosive rounds. Now the armor piercing and the armor piercing composite rigid rounds each do 400 standard hit points average, and your high explosive does 515. with an explosive radius of 2.42 meters. Now, the penetration on your armor-piercing rounds is going to be 257 millimeters. That is excellent. You have a tier 10 gun. That's excellent. You're going to be able to penetrate anything that you shoot at. You also get armor-piercing composite rigid rounds, which have 325 millimeters of penetration. That is also excellent. Now your high explosive rounds only have 65 millimeters of penetration. I do not load any high explosives on my AMX 5120 just because of the reload time of this tank. Let's talk about shell speed. Your regular armor-piercing rounds, the shell travels at 1,067 meters per second, and your APCR rounds are going to travel at 1,334 meters per second. And your high explosive is going to do the same as your armor-piercing, 1,067 meters per second. The damage per minute in this tank is 2,132 hit points per minute. So you're roughly going to be able to do 2,100 points of damage in a minute. That's not saying that's what you're going to do. That's just what this tank is capable of doing. Now, let's talk about the rate of fire of this tank. When you have the 100 millimeter gun on this tank, you're going to have 6 shells in the chamber. Your reload time is roughly going to be about 35 seconds. Now, when you get the 120 millimeter, you're going to have 4 shots in the tank, in the gun loaded. But you're going to be doing 400 hit points for every shot. With that 100 millimeter, you're only going to be doing like 300 to like 200 and something. That's not great considering you're going up against tier 9 and tier 10. So you want this 120. The reload time of this tank is 35 seconds with the 120 millimeter, and your rate of fire is going to be about 5.33 rounds per minute. Now you can get the reload time down. You don't get a gun rammer with this tank, but you can get the reload time of this tank down by getting your crew fully trained and getting brothers in arms and adding other things to your tank that will bring that reload time down. I have my reload time down to about 32 seconds. So you're going to be able to shave off at least 3 to 4 seconds off your tank, depending on what you're using on it. Now, let's talk about the fire rate between shots. Now, this tank, as I said, gets 4 rounds in a clip. Now, you fire, it's going to take you 3.33 seconds to reload your next shot. That is alright. So roughly you'll be able to fire 2 shots before maybe you have to duck into cover. You don't want to pop out in this tank and fire all 4 of your shots. Even though I know it's very tempting to do when you're in an autoloader, but not when your reload time in between shots is 3.3 seconds. Maybe if it was a little less than that, maybe if it was like a 2.9 seconds or something. Now the accuracy of this gun is very, very good. It's a 3.4 accuracy. That is very good. That is better than most tank destroyers. The aim time of this tank is not that great. 3-second aiming time. Horrible, horrible. Now you'll be able to get that aiming time down with your crew fully trained, brothers in arms, and other things to equip on your tank. Let's talk about gun elevation and gun depression. This tank only gets 6 degrees of gun depression. That is horrible. You're not going to be able to aim down at your enemies. And the gun elevation is only 8 degrees. That is because this has an osculating turret. If you look at this, when you try and raise your gun up, the back end of that turret is going to hit the bottom part of your tank. When you're on a hill and you're trying to look down, or you're trying to look up at a tank who is on a hill, you're not going to be able to shoot them. It is horrible. Out of the 128 matches that I've played, I do not know how many times I have not been able to get a shot onto an enemy because of the position that they were in or the position that I was in. Just because of this gun depression and gun elevation. Now with the osculating turret, the thing is that the gun doesn't recoil. The gun uses the turret as the recoil. This is why it has an osculating turret. The turret acts as a shock absorber instead of the gun going inside of the gun mantle like you see on most other tanks. The turret takes the shock. The ammo capacity of this tank is 40 rounds. Let's talk about the camo value of this tank. The camo value of this tank, while stationary, is 7.5%. While in motion, you're going to have a 5% camo value. And when firing, you're going to have 1.21% camo value. Not too bad for a heavy tank. Now you can bring that up with a camouflage net, or having camouflage skill up, or putting camouflage on your tank. Let's talk about the battle performance of this tank. For the average player, playing solo, you're gonna hit your target about 75.5% of the time. Your win rate in this tank is only going to be 47 to 48% win ratio in this tank for the average player. Playing solo, it'll probably be higher if you're playing in platoons. Damage dealt per battle is only going to be about 1,471.5 damage dealt for the average player playing solo. And your kills per battle is only going to be a 0.8 kill. You're going to almost average maybe almost a kill every game. Like I said, this tank acts as a support tank, so basically you're firing, providing support for the tanks, and usually tanks are getting kills for you. But with that in mind, for the summary of this tank is fairly decent. I highly recommend it. All autoloaders are pretty good. Now this is a support tank. You're not technically a heavy tank. You don't have the armor. You are a second line to third line tank, supporting your heavies and medium tanks, providing fire with your high rate of fire. You're going to be able to track targets, keep them in place for your team to shoot at other targets for you. Now, I'm going to leave you with 2 replays showing you what these tanks can do. They're nothing spectacular. As I said, I just pretty much got this tank, only 128 battles. I do have a first class mastery badge in this tank, still working towards my mastery badge. I've had some pretty good games in this tank, and I've had some bad games in this tank. This tank will either reward you or it won't. This tank usually doesn't have... You'll usually have average games in this tank. you won't do too bad unless you are a bad player. This tank can have great games, but on par, this tank is average, I would say, as a heavy tank at tier 9. Just an average tank. So with that in mind, I am going to leave you with 2 replays. I will be commentating on those replays, letting you guys know what I was thinking during the process of those battles. So here we go. Okay, this is the first match on Airfield. It is a standard battle. It just turns out to just be a tier 9 game. I believe we end up losing this match. So as I start out, I'm looking at the map to see what tanks are on the enemy side. There's 3 artillery on the enemy team. So I want to kind of get into a position where I know I'm not going to get hit by artillery. With artillery on the map, you do not want to be the first tank spotted because artillery will be targeting you. Now this video here that you're watching is from my live stream on Friday. Both of these videos that you'll be seeing is from my live stream on Friday. Later on in the day, I ended up platooning up with Cosmic Carry and a couple other people. And we had some live stream fun. Now here I'm sitting and waiting. I noticed that there's a light tank and a medium tank over here that gets spotted. I was somewhat expecting their heavy tanks to come up over this way. Really didn't see that many of their heavy tanks. I was expecting a lot more to come than what I saw, but it just did not happen when I came down this flank. I wanted to be protected from artillery. I didn't want to get hit by artillery, so I was using these mountains here to hide as much as my tank as I could. Now here I'm sitting waiting to see if this medium tank will make a mistake and come out. I don't want to rush him. I don't know if there's any tank destroyers back there or not. Now right there's an E-75. I track him, I'll hold him in place. I put 1 shot into him. 2 shots. 3 shots and he's dead. As you saw right there, the reload time of that tank in between shots was somewhat fairly slow. It wasn't like it was like boom, 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 boom when you fired all 4 of your shots. It's actually a pretty slow process in this French tank. It's not like the American autoloaders where the shots just fire off pretty much as fast as you can pull the trigger almost. Now over here I realized that this side is falling, so I come to help. Now this is one of the particular reasons why I wanted to show you guys this video. I want to show you guys the gun depression and the gun elevation on this tank. It's horrible. So I come over here and I can see the Yag Tiger, but he's got his lower plate hidden very well. So I reverse, I get hit by something. I'm not exactly for sure what shot me. It may have been an IS-3. So I'm backing up. I'm trying to find a position for my tank. I couldn't even get a shot on that T-32 that was coming down the hill because of my gun depression. It was horrible, horrible. So now I have to bring my tank over. Now look, no gun elevation. Now I have to bring my tank back. I went too far. Now I have to bring my tank back to get shots into him. Now I took shots myself, but I wanted to wither down that Yak Tiger. It is a very, very dangerous tank. That's going to come back to bite me in the end. I really did want to wither his points away. He had full health. We cannot have a fully healthy Yag Tiger running around. He needs to be beat up like everyone else. So now look, no gun depression. But I do have the gun depression to hit that 232. I saw him, he came out spotted. I was gonna aim for that Yag Tiger. Was my thinking. I was gonna come out, I was gonna finish off that Yag Tiger, but the T-32 popped up. So I went ahead and took the shot at the T-32. Now I'm reloading. Now I realize an E-75 is coming around this end. Here I make a bad play. I have no clue why I did this or for what reason. I was thinking that the artillery was going to hit him on the far side back there that you see. My first shot there, I hit his tracks, I tracked him and damaged him. I bring his tracks back up and I don't even know where that shot went. I'm ricocheting off his tank and I'm hitting his lower plate. This is 257 millimeters of penetration and then I die. I guess as soon as I saw that I couldn't penetrate, I guess I should have backed off, but I thought one of them was gonna bound to go through, but it didn't happen, and now we're gonna lose this battle. There's no possible way that we're gonna win this. The artillery did kill the 75 though. It was just a little too late. So I'm gonna let you guys finish out watching this video, and then I will be back for the next one. Alright, so that was that for that battle. Now, the second one here is on Pearl River. This is also a standard battle. Now here, usually if you're in this tank, I would not recommend coming down this side. On this left side if you spawn on the side. It's not very good for this type of tank. You typically want to go down the other flank. You don't want to go in the middle of this map, and you don't want to go to this side. Now, the reason why I chose this side was kind of because I'd played this before, and I played it down the other flank, and it worked very well down the other flank, but I wanted to see what it could maybe do if it had to brawl face-to-face with other tanks. Now here, I do fairly well. We do win this battle. I do have support, so whenever I'm reloading, I'm not stuck out in the open. But yet again, whenever people come over this way, they do dumb things, and they usually get themselves killed. They rush at the enemy, they don't sit and wait. Now what I do here is, there's two mediums there. I let them take those two flanks, and I was like, okay, doesn't look like anyone's gonna go in the middle. Now I know I'm not gonna have the gun depression if there's any tank spotted to shoot at them, but I'm going to spot to see what else is here that those mediums don't spot, and then I get spotted and there's a couple other tanks that pop up right there, but I don't spot them. I didn't have the gun depression, and I wasn't bound to bring my tank up over that hill because my tank is such a tall targeted tank. So now I see the E75 has made it, so I'm going to follow this E75. I hope he can angle his armor fairly well. I'm going to follow him and support him. Here we have a little tier 8 medium tank beside us. But it's up to me and the C-75 to try and hold this center and flank here. Basically it's up to the E-75 really. I'm just here to support him. I'm not going to pop out. And there we have a medium tank pop out. One shot into him. Second shot goes into his ammo rack. Now we have a Super Pershing. Don't know why he's doing what he's doing. Put a shot into him. Put another shot into him. Now if you notice there, I took 2 shots from each of those tanks. The T-54 landed a hit on me, and the Super Pershing landed a hit on me. Now I'm reloading. I don't want to be in that position right there, because I will just be a sitting duck. So I run and move because I have the speed of mobility. This is what you want to do in this tank. I back away. I'm waiting to reload. I'm hoping that the E-75 in this medium tank will be able to hold until I can reload. I'm looking to see what's there. So I am now reloaded, so now I'm going to push back up to where these guys are and provide them with some support. If I wanted to sit there, I would have got shot by anyone who was trying to flank down through the middle. And they would have shot at me because most people who play this game know that this is an autoloader and this doesn't have any armor. So now, the only tanks that are left is an M103 and a Patton. Now, or not a Patton, but a T-44. I shoot him, he gets set on fire, finish him off. Now the only thing that's left is an M103 over here that I can see, and there's the power of that gun. Shot him right in the turret, went right through the turret, the cheeks of his turret. And I've taken another hit from the M103.
Yeah, we got a heavy back there.
So now we won this flank, and there's a couple of tanks in the middle. I'm not going to go that way to get them, but I'm going to continue to follow the C-75. Now, here I always know that there's a couple of tanks that like sitting at their base. So, I'm not exactly for sure what's here, but I'm using this hill to not be spotted until I feel like I want to be spotted. So, I know there's an STI over there. Now I'm looking this way to see if any of those tanks who are in the middle are going to flank down, and then I see that there's kind of a tank destroyer sitting there kind of watching the butt, or somewhat. So I decide I'm going to push up here. I was hoping to get a finishing shot on the STI, but I don't. Now I start backing up, and right there I realize I get shot from across the way over there. I'm not for sure by what, but now I realize that there's another tank over there. And there, I see the shot fire again. So I move position. He's trying to blind fire me. And now this medium tank is pushing up that way, and he's trying to look. I don't know if he saw the same tank, but he's looking in the wrong place, so I pinged the map for him to let him know that the tank is right there. They must have been
Oh
getting
yeah,
shot
he's
at by
on
the
his
same
head, dude.
guy.
Look at that shit.
So I'm pinging the map. I'm letting him know where the shot came from. He's in those bushes over there. I can't see him because he's using those bushes.
Good
And
game, fellas. Good game.
I can't. I'm going to support him as he spots. Or that's my plan. There, he spots him. He puts a shot into him. He backs away. And I finish him off.
I took all the hits for our team over here on the right side.
And
We got beat up, man.
that's how that works. Now, typically, if I was playing that tank, I would go down the other flank. That's what you should do. You shouldn't really take the flank that I took, but I just was wanting to test it out to see what it could do. But thank you for watching, and I will be putting up another video soon.